panel discussion that is really very interesting. I would like to hear about it. That is sustaining entrepreneurship ecosystem, and the moderator for the same is none other than Flight Lieutenant Sridhar Chakravarti ji. So welcome, sir. Before you start, I would like to introduce you. So Lieutenant Sridhar Chakravarti has been a coach and mentor for startups, professionals, and organizations, helping them achieve incredible results. He has been mentoring hundreds of startups over the past decade. He has been a speaker and trained 30,000 plus college students on entrepreneurship through webinars. He played a key role in building an online startup ecosystem with more than 1 lakh active participants. He is a director at Upayam Foundation, focusing on millet-based agri-business promotion and incubation. He is an author and loves long-distance bicycling and photography. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, and great to be here. Good afternoon, everybody. And I am blessed with a fantastic August panel of experts, and I would love to quickly get on with the task. So before we move on to the introduction of the panelists, I just want to bring in a short overview of what is entrepreneurial ecosystem all about. So when we talk of an ecosystem, it is huge. In fact, initially when I looked at it, I thought maybe there will be about 10-15 elements, but I found that there are more than 50 distinct elements which contribute to success of every startup being part of an ecosystem. We can broadly segregate them into institutions, actors, internal factors of a startup, then internal processes of the startup, industry factors, similarly technology and infrastructure, customers and markets will play a role, even there are multiple elements there, and the community. And over and above, you have multiple flavors of startups. Imagine this complete milieu, and everybody is trying to, in one way, directly or indirectly influences startups. So this is what we are actually getting into. And quickly moving on to the introduction of the panel, we have Mr. Gaurav Sharma, who will be focusing on the green events and forums. And Gaurav Sharma is a 2-time TEDx speaker, startup mentor, and a social entrepreneur, CEO and founder of Trash Company into sustainable waste management solutions. We are not going to build a future with heaps of waste around. This is belief, and I love it. And he is also being appreciated as his efforts, the trash man of Rajasthan. So I really love that. I have heard of waterman of Rajasthan. Now we have got trash man of Rajasthan. Fantastic. Great. Thanks a lot, Gaurav, for being here. Then we have Niraj Shah. We'll be focusing on the green product and R&D institutions and how they can support us. And design professional, essentially, and founder and the partner at IDEO Design and IDEO Graph. Communication side of CC India, advisory board at BEQ and BN, chairperson IIID ABAD chapter, and on Oscar India selection panel 2020. A panelist, a film subsidy committee, INB ministry, government of Goa. So it's a very versatile personality. And great to have Niraj ji on the panel. Thank you so much. Welcome. Then we have Mr. Rajeev Warrier, sir. He is the EVP of Wadhwani Entrepreneur at Wadhwani Fondation. I am also very happy to share that I am also a mentor on Wadhwani Foundation. And he is a software professional with engineering, business development, and management experiences. He has worked across the globe in India, Australia, Canada, and USA. Versatile experience in general management, entrepreneurship, information technology, software development and consulting, and planning of technology and enterprise and e-commerce companies is a special forte. And he is essentially a BE Mechanical Engineering from NIT, Bhopal, and also done his PG Diploma in Software Enterprise Management from IIM Bangalore. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
Then we have Vineet Mittal. And I just love this guy. He's at a young age, he is already a company secretary, chartered accountant, and cost accountant, and all. Not just like that. He's secured all top ranks across India in the competitive examinations. And Mr. Vineet is a director and co-founder of Novitas Solar, a solar module manufacturing company. He is also an MBA from SPJ Institute of Management. 10 plus years of hands-on experience in sales and finance, networking, new business development, and also he has got hands-on business experience in the fields of polyester film, construction material, textiles, and energy sector. Then he is currently director at Renon India Private Limited. It is a lithium-ion battery manufacturing company. Co-founder at Navitas Alpha Renewables. It's an EVA sheet manufacturing company. And EV5 Logitech Private Limited, an environment-friendly end-to-end logistics solution for electric vehicles, charging stations, and tech or green warehouses. So he is our technology guy. So he is going to focus on that aspect. Thanks a lot, Vineet, for joining the panel. Great to have all of you here. All right, so let me go to Gaurav. See, there are so many events happening. Like even this, we are part of an event today. There are so many forums. How do you see these events and forums playing a constructive role in building and nurturing this ecosystem?
Thank you, Sridhar, for the question. So I would tackle it two aspects. One is the sustainability aspect, and second, I would talk about the ecosystem building aspect. So when we talk about ecosystem building, I think there is a knowledge, there is value, there is a skill set, and there is a network. So in fact, everyone is seeking something or the other, and I believe all kind of opportunities actually create a forum where you are exposed to ample amount of knowledge, skill set, values. Also the network. So for sure, a lot of time people say that, okay, how do I network when I go to a forum, right? So what is extremely important is that I believe that you need to create a value. So for example, let's say if I'm here and I'm meeting all of you, my objective is to meet everyone with warmth and have no expectations at all. Now what happens is that now when, let's say, someone says that I want to work on something, some industry, or I would want some connect here and there.
Right.
I will make my own notes and go back, and wherever I feel that, okay, I'm able to find that resource for individual, I'll come back to them and I'll tell them, okay, this is something I found for you. Now, if you're still looking for it, I can make a connection and I can establish that. So I'm saying we are often exposed and we are meeting a lot of people, but what is important is that we need to create value for each other. Because the more value we create, the more, I would say, the connection is going to be much more solid. It is very similar to you saying that, okay, I have so many friends. But if I have to decode friendship, I would say it is very simply put, the more number of shared moments or memories you have with someone, right? And that's very similar to, I would say, sustainability as well, which a lot of time people, I'm referring to networking. So a lot of time people are not so clear about what is happening and how it is going forward. Coming to the sustainability aspect, I would say, since revenge travel is a new thing, and all of us would want to travel after COVID era, I'm saying we're still in the era though. Similarly, there are a lot of events where people are really bored or fed up with virtual events, and now they're actually moving to physical events. So it is extremely important that how to ensure that the waste coming out of these forums being properly taken care of. So in order to understand, because I've been in the waste management industry for 7 years now, but if I talk about waste, I would say, and if you just decode what exactly waste is, so waste is something which is of no value to you, but it could be a potential resource to someone else.
Correct.
It's very similar, I think, in order to understand the ecosystem building. Maybe if we are hosting, let's say, this panel discussion, may be useful to someone, may not be useful to someone, but we need to put in that effort in order to do something where we feel that even if minute set of people are going to be impacted, because slowly the impact is going to be created in such a way that people will come and tell you that, okay, I would want a seminar on this, I would want a mentorship support here, I would want a network to expand my business. or I need, let's say, XYZ kind of resources. So I think it's very slowly. I think it's a kind of a gear that on one side you put in effort and you get the result. On another side, people start putting in effort and they tell you, okay, I would want more effort here. So
Excellent. So, in fact, the interesting aspect about these forums or even these networking events or the sessions is that, as you correctly said, everybody has their own agenda. They are looking for their specific cup of tea. So how do we cater to that kind of diverse needs?
So I think for diverse needs, you actually need a lot of players to come in and contribute there.
Correct.
For example, let's say Niti Aayog came up with Untitled Innovation Mission back in 2016. And once they came in, they started building a lot of incubation centers and a lot of Atal Tinkering Labs with schools and colleges.
Right.
But recently, they also came up with Atal Community Innovation Center because they felt that there is still unserved and underserved regions.
Correct.
So, for example, I am also serving as a CEO for first ACIC functional in Jaipur, which is focusing on craft. So what I'm saying is that when you, let's say if I talk about Jaipur, and I've been part of the ecosystem for years now, and I often see that, okay, Razorpay has been born here, but they moved to Bangalore. Car Dekho have been here, they're moving to Gurgaon, right? So now, I mean, there's one thing which we need to accept, that the ecosystem is ecosystem. I mean, the Silicon Valley is called Silicon Valley because the resources, kind of conversations, kind of network it offers, which is missing.
Correct.
In order to work around it, I would say we need to identify the strengths. For example, one thing which I really follow being an entrepreneur, that you need to build something which revolves around your own strengths. Then you will not hit it every day that, okay, why I'm doing this. So I think similarly, when I talk about this ACIC, the focus is that if you go on home decor category on Amazon, Flipkart or Meesho, you'll find Jaipur as one of the major contributors and suppliers. Now, if that is happening, can we build a very specific ecosystem which only caters to craft? So anyone who would like to create a website, who would like R&D labs, who would like specific mentors who understand craft segment or the products of craft, right? So I think now, I would say from 2012 onwards, we have been building a generic ecosystem. But I think now is the time when we need to go a little deeper and we need to kind of validate what is happening there. So for example, let's say we do have mentors on board as well. But my idea is now that how do we create a metric where we measure the performance of mentors? Because there are a lot of mentors across various organizations in India. In fact, if I go on Atal Innovation Mission's website, and I feel that there are some credible, some I'm not sure about. Correct. Right? So there's still a lot of work to be done, and I feel there are a lot of opportunities for a lot of potential startups to come and work upon. But in general, I think the crux is that we need to go a little deeper. We need to go a little specific, because every segment, every sector has a different need and different ask.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. All right. Coming to you, Niraj sir. So you have been into the design area, particularly product design. When we talk about green products, what are the specific focus areas? And also, how do we bring that the R&D institutions collaborating with the entrepreneurs?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sridhar and Gaurav Sharma. Brilliant points, sir. I think you covered so much, just with those two answers per se. So taking from what they've been doing, and I think Jaipur being one of the examples. See, there are two types actually. One is that there is industrial design, typically, which means that the need for that particular product already exists in the market.
Okay.
And in which case, the feasibility, and I always keep talking about design connected to financial feasibility, is because there is already a need for that product.
Okay.
In some cases today, and if you really look at it in terms of waste or overall consumerism, number one is that there are so many products which are actually useless. There are too many of them and we don't really need them. The aspiration value, creating that kind of an aspiration value at a point where we believe in branding, because we do a lot of branding. We try and create that, what we call as WTP, the willingness to pay for a product. But at the same time, I think the first consciousness should come whether the product is really required or not.
Okay.
So actually, right now, how does that happen? And this I kind of also learned through one of the recent courses pre-COVID, which I worked with the MIT, USA, through an emeritus program.
Uh-huh.
And there, the entire focus was on. So there are two major aspects. One is empathy, and in design, empathy, and the other is prototyping. I imagine both these things being completely hand in hand in order to arrive or achieve a product which is absolutely of use. Correct? Now, where are we talking about green in terms of sustainable materials being used? That still comes much, much later. What if the product is not required? What about sustaining resources that come into those startups, which actually get wasted because 3 years down the line, the entire project
They're gone.
They're gone.
Correct.
So I think, the whole idea of focusing only on the greenness or on in terms of products is a myth. Now, second is for, products which already have a high consumption, which are desirable. It's like, for example, one of the best examples is sneakers, like shoes.
Right.
At one point, there were sneakers, even from the good brands, which are sold at, about $22,000, okay, which is great on bids. Now, at the same time, those same companies have become very conscious and they are doing a lot of recycling and upcycling.
Correct.
Where you recall, so Puma did that some time back. So where you recall your, old sneakers and you upcycle them, recycle them, redo it and sell it in the market again. Whether it is not, today it is a fad. Today the desirability is very high. Somebody is paying a large amount of money for it, which is also good because that's what you need in order to sustain or start something which is a bigger cause, right?
Correct.
It cannot be only directly related to product's use and its sellability in the market. It cannot be based only on that kind of a profit margin. Now, talking about from a global scenario, this whole idea of R&D within organizations is still very low. India still ranks. I mean, it's very knee-jerk. Somebody's doing it. There is a herd mentality. Suddenly, you think that there is a market. Everybody jumps in. Right? Whether it's baking cakes and making it, as homegrown chefs, etc. Correct. See, all products are. I mean, everything is scalable if the purpose is
correct.
Now, the second is the other sector, which I think even the previous discussion was talking about, was craft. And that itself has a lot of its own issues. Because we are coming back not from the industry, we are coming in terms of coming in touch with the craftsmen. Where the skills have been passed down over generations, where the taboo of changing that the end product is very, very high.
Very true.
It has changed, since couple of years, and I think Jaipur being at the helm, and some of our friends there, like Ayush Kasliwal and Gitanjali, they've been working very strongly on it with a very large setup. And it's not just the factory setup. We see the amount of work that is happening in the Craft Institute. But now there, what happens is your resources, etc., are very, very limited.
Yes.
How do you concentrate on? Which I think, Mr. Gaurav will be able to, tell us even better, whether we are actually talking about sustaining the craft and the craftsmen and their families, or are we talking about sustaining the, using sustainable material?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
At the moment we start putting it into a modern context of usability, we again get into that whole idea of consumerism and non-usability.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we do make, craft and design go hand in hand. Design, of course, needs to enhance the craft in order to be able to make sense of the product, to be able to make it usable. But I think it starts at the elite level. And that's the gap that we need to either, I would say, really exploit, it is being explored well, but to exploit in the best possible manner in order to let that entire benefit or that margin go down and percolate to the lowest level.
Absolutely.
These are the two things that we have been seeing in the more organized and the non-organized sectors.
Absolutely. Great insights, Niraj. Thanks a lot. Okay, coming to you, Rajeev sir.
Sure.
So, lot of NGOs, including, of course, Wadhwani Fondation has been doing fantastic job for many years now. But I see a lot of NGOs emerging also in the space of promoting, whether it is a woman entrepreneurship or sustainable entrepreneurship, or one way or the other, trying to create those livelihoods, etc. How do you see this? Do you think enough is being done, or do you see a much larger vision and a roadmap for NGOs as such?
Yeah. So I'm new to this field. I started working with Wadhwani in the non-profit area a year ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
For that, I was working in the for-profit world of software development and software companies. So as I see it from the last 1 year, if you look at the 600, 700 odd incubators that we have in India, and they support anywhere between 50 to 100 startups on an ongoing manner. And then there are these private angel networks that support investment and the growth of the startups. But if you take all that number, add it up all up, you will see that there are about, at the top of the pyramid, probably about 8 or 10,000 of these startups are well taken care of. And in India, there are about 60,000 startups that starts every year. And they live for about 5 years. So we can roughly take that there are about 3 lakhs startups in some form or the other. So the bottom of the pyramid is typically outside of all these systems, whether it's government grants or incubators or commercial funding. So that's what we are seeing, is that when we launch this kind of women entrepreneurship or a drone-based entrepreneur or startup idea for AIC, indoor, prestige and indoor, or a industry 4.0 based startups, we see large number of applications. And these applications are from startups who are 3 to 4 years. They burnt their money or got some initial funding from family and friends or some even government grants, but are at a stage where, like you said, these are varied, different areas. These startups are in different areas, and getting experts in that specific area is very difficult. So our approach is to abstract out the problems that startups face, from identifying a problem worth solving, building an MVP, building a team, looking at your unit economics and building a viable financial proposition, and then taking it into an investor. So what we do is we do 2 things essentially. I think that's what these NGOs can do. Go to the universities and offer a credit-bearing course to the universities students in the final or pre-final years, which should be very experiential, ideally case-based, and teach them what is involved in starting up. Because their parents are saying, go take up a job. Right? The society is saying, get a job, 3 years later you get married, you're safe, bigger the company name, the better. And you go and tell your parents that you're starting up, they will look at you very, very oddly, right? So there is an educational aspect of what is starting up, what is involved, how difficult it is, what do you commit, what do you lose out if you start up. That's one aspect of it. And people who venture out and start up and are at the bottom of the pyramid, you need to go help them, right? True. So that's what we try to do. We have a target to teach about 100,000 students in the next 3 years until 2025. And we want to create 1,500 funded ventures from about 15,000 ventures, right? So that's, that, which is, so, and we don't do any equity funding or we don't take equity. It's completely pro bono. So we run a 14-week program either in the college, which is a 1 semester course, or we go to these startups, pick them up and run a case-based experiential program for them, at the end of which they learn more about themselves and they are better ready to pitch to an investor.
Excellent.
And that's what we do.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, coming to you, Vineet. Yeah, you have been in the technology forefront, particularly on energy as well as the electric mobility, as I would put it together. How do you see this evolving? What are the major breakthroughs that are required for us to really move forward here?
First of all, thank you for inviting me for this session. I really feel honored to be a part of the speakers here, the experience they share and the knowledge they have. Really honored to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Regarding the energy and electric mobility ecosystem, uh, last 10 years, I mean, so we started this company in Navitas about this is the 10th year now. We come from a textile manufacturing background and ventured out into energy because we saw a huge opportunity coming after 5 years, 7 years, and if we are able to make a base out of this business, and then we can grow with the market, because the market itself will pull us through.
Correct.
And there will be fluctuations, there will be volatility, but the demand will always keep on growing. So that was the premise. The only and obviously initial 4-5 years went a lot into the concept selling or the awareness part of it. Now I think and obviously with lot of government support and marketing campaigns around, now people are fully aware of the benefits of the green ecosystem, the green energy ecosystem particularly, and now the green mobility, purely from the economic standpoint, because it is environmentally friendly, that is okay, but it is economically viable for the people to embrace solar wherever there is a need for reducing the energy bills, and wherever there is energy shortage, there obviously you don't have any option other than going to solar. So in that sense, the awareness part has been done pretty well, but still I think people are, for whatever reasons, skeptic about the growth of this sector, or maybe the Chinese intervention in terms of dependency on raw materials. So people are not very clear about the next 10 years, how it will shape up. And those are very genuine concerns, but the only point that we are trying to make here is that we have to take smaller steps every day. We can't really change the entire ecosystem which has been developed over last century, I would say, not just a decade. It's going to take a lot of time to convert from a fossil fuel to a green ecosystem. And there, the role of new age entrepreneurs, I don't think we are into technology business. We are purely into a financial business where people ask us the payback. They don't ask us what is the technology, how is the power going to be generated. There is no such question when we talk to an industrial customer. They're only concerned about the revenue or the profits that they would make. It's good, okay, to be number specific, but at the end of the day, it has a social angle to it. If we are able to give some additional points while deciding whether to put up a solar plant now or 1 year later, if the industry is able to sensitize that apart from the savings they will do or whatever payback calculations, a slight mark going ahead for the environment for the next generation. And it is a pure play fact that it's green energy. There is no doubt in that. So that will really go a long way in just those 5 or 7% IRR addition which they're looking for. If it is getting 15% IRR, which is still a very decent return in the current market scenario of 15 to 17%. If they forego that and they consider it, say, 20-25% as a notional additional interest they would get because of their payback to the society. Anyways, we do donation and CSR. This is a part of it, and we are still earning out of it. So that will go a long way. And then along with not just investing in solar or electric mobility, promoting new entrepreneurs, maybe either investing through them or helping them with their whatever small businesses they are doing in each and every corner of the country. And the whole ecosystem of these two new businesses, the value chain is evolving day by day. There's a lot of IoT being introduced, a lot of machine learning is happening to improve the generation, to improve the efficiency of the projects and the products. So now I think the industry owners who are well settled, and if they can spare even a 1 to 3% or 5% of their investment portfolio only into these two sectors, and then make a profitable business. There is no doubt you are doing this for charity, but then if they look at it as a profitable venture and then stick to it for 10 years, pick up two students or two people who want to get into this sector, and then back up them with your experience and knowledge. The first slide which you showed us, Niraj sir, about those 15 and 17 odd factors that go into a business
Right,
startup.
right.
I really love that. I really love that because we have almost in each and every stage been impacted by almost all of those points.
Exactly.
So, and those come by experience, I think. A new startup needs those kind of mentoring. And I think Gaurav I told about the mentors who are there on the face of it, but then who are the real mentors. So people who really have those experience are the people who are running businesses.
Correct.
So if they are able to mentor just or maybe backup, maybe even financially, 2 or 3 or 5 entrepreneurs in their nearby locality, then I think it can go a long way.
Very true. Very true. Thank you so much, Vineet. It's a fantastic insight. I'll come back to you again on the battery side of it. Going back to Gaurav again. So we discussed, we talked about mentoring. See, one of the biggest challenges, I have been a mentor myself, predominantly as a volunteer mentor. The uptake in terms of recognizing that I need to have a mentor itself seems to be a challenge. Number one. Number two, is there any need for compensating a mentor, first of all? If so, how?
Thank you. I think it is a very interesting question. I'll try to recollect while speaking. The first thought which crosses my mind is that when we say a mentor, we need someone to help us out in some capacity. For
Correct.
that to happen, we need to know that where we really want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to go to the destination, and if you really want to be super sure, you need the clarity of why. So at times, a lot of us are not, we lack the clarity of why. And for example, why we are watching this discussion, why we are going for a particular thing, why we are starting the venture. And a lot of time people confuse their why with the money or with fame.
Yes.
Right? So what I'm highlighting is the purpose. And there's a very popular talk by Simon Sinek on TED. He spoke in 2007, which talks about golden circle.
Correct.
Golden circle is why, how, and what.
Correct.
And a lot of big organizations, like ordinary organization or ordinary leaders, they communicate outside in. So they know
Correct.
what they're doing, they know how they're doing, but they hardly knows why they're doing it.
Very
And
true.
similarly, the extraordinary individuals or organizations know why. Looking at Apple. And the communication, Apple may not be the market leader. May not be the leader in terms of owning the market, but still considered to be a market leader. Right?
Correct.
So I think the first important aspect is to have the clarity that why you are doing it and where exactly you want to go. Post which, I think identifying a mentor is someone you feel a little comfort being vulnerable. Because a lot of times I would say being an entrepreneur, it's about the lonely journey. And
Correct.
a lot of times you feel that kind of barrier that why do I need help? I'm supposed to be the powerful one, right? So I think looking at the combinations, I think it is extremely important that if you have someone who, either relates to your industry, either relates to something which you lack, either you relate to the individual on a personal level, emotional level. So I think it's the combination of what exactly you need and whether this person offers that on the table or not. So I think that is one aspect. In terms of compensating, I would say, everything is give and take in general. And it doesn't mean that it has to be monetary give and take. So at times, it also depends on that what exactly the other person wants, because it's a kind of association of two individuals. And it also is going to vary in terms of where exactly mentor is, like in terms of the stage of life, or if the person is only willing to give it back, then you need to just be more sincere about it. But I think if it is for free, that is my personal bias. If there is nothing on stake, there is little leniency. It just goes away.
That's true.
Anything. Look at the incubators across the country offering free co-working space. Look out at a lot of mentors being available and all of that. So somehow we take things for granted. Similarly, I would say it has to be some kind of checks and balance. Maybe that I will live up to something or XYZ. I'm saying it could be, let's say, someone, if your mentor likes to play chess, you can actually go out and create a chess by yourself on a CNC machine and gift it. So that doesn't mean we need to be super big. That is one aspect.
Yeah. That's very interesting way of looking at it. Beautiful.
And I would
Thank
say
you.
India has been a country where we give a lot of privilege to people who have achieved a lot of things. Saying this from an experience of, let's say, hosting a lot of events. And I have seen a lot of speakers who come on the forum. I understand they bring a lot of credibility, but a lot of times what happens is that as organizers, a lot of us are not so willing to question them. Okay, you only have this much of time, or can you walk me through the flow of your talk and all of that?
Right.
Because so this is something I think the privilege has to go away when it comes to mentorship. Because you'll not be able to vulnerable, you'll not be able to open up, and eventually you'll not be able to gain as much as you could.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, coming to you, Niraj. See, one thing particularly I have seen a big challenge. I mean, this question I would like Rajeev also to answer. Particularly the technopreneurs, people who come up with the technology-based solutions, they become an entrepreneur after getting married to the technology or that solution. They don't want to let it go. You try to tell him, boss, there is no market viability or there is a challenge. Then they say you are not able to get me. So how do you break that that challenge? Because I know people who burnt up to 2 crores, then they come and talk to me. It's too late. So how do we handle? Yeah,
I think you kind of identified the question for sure. I don't know if we can really, and if I'm at a position to be able to give a clear-cut answer to this. But I'll tell you what happens is that, let's understand one thing, that we are actually, as India, as a country, the potential, of course, is high. We have a large amount of consumption here.
Right.
We have a lot of, as opposed to what I was saying earlier in terms of R&D, because the question was that, we actually, on our streets and in our society itself, we have a lot of R&D. Right? We have
absolutely. So true.
Right? We have a social ecosystem which kind of helps you in a way to bounce off certain things, right?
Correct.
What happens with technology is, and what even Gaurav was mentioning earlier, in terms of, connected to your question about forums and networking. This is where all this comes into play. And I think all of these things are connected. Your whole idea about mentorship and network is something that helps people get in at the right time. There will be a filtration. How many startups actually really see the light of the day? So to say, so there is going to be a lot of waste of resources. It is going to happen. There is no way to, it is only about the right timing. Now, there could be extremely, and we say this very lightly very often, is this whole idea of passion driven. But believe me, it is not passion, it is what we call as purpose driven. And which we talked about earlier, right? That purpose, which is your, absolute beginning of the why. If that purpose is correct, I think everything aligns itself. And which is not very philosophical about it. I don't know who can come in at what stage to be able to help that tech geek to say that, your technology is actually not correct on its own, but it can be used in this, which you never thought of.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think mentorship, networking, or connecting the right people at the right time is what is possible. But there will be a filtration. There will be a lot of waste. There will be so many wasted talents, wasted years. Getting the right person at the right time to be able to help you out.
Okay, great. That's a very philosophical answer, I would say, for a pragmatic answer, I would say. Yeah, Rajeev sir, what do you think about this?
So I think, in our programs, how we start our program is each entrepreneur looking at whether it's student group who's trying to put a project together or a practice venture together, or a real company that has operated, have customers, have revenue.
Right.
We ask them whether the problem they are trying to solve is worth solving.
Yes.
That's the first question that we ask.
Yes.
To assess that, we ask them to list down your assumptions.
Right.
Whether the customer has such a need, and these are the reasons for that need. List down your assumptions and look at which are the riskiest of those assumptions. Right? Once you systematically study that, then you may want to do some market research or trial customers or go to mentors, right?
Yes.
Mentors are people who have done this in the past So you have a theory, you want to run it past somebody and, take his view or her view. And you may accept it or you may reject it. You may use that input to pivot into an adjacent area, or you may not. You may decide to take that risk and move forward because you see so much of value if that risk is kind of taken and if that your theory or your hypothesis is proven right. So some people would go down that path. Another point that and typically entrepreneurs come back and say, I have no time to educate somebody about what I'm trying to do, right? Because it's initial discussions are all about, what is this problem that I'm trying to solve? How do I solve it? It's too much of a time. So get me somebody who has done, for example, who has created Frames kind of a product and made it successful in the Gujarat market, for example, which is a big, fried stuff kind of market. So give me that kind of a person. So what we are trying to do at the scale that we are trying to operate, what we are trying to do is we are trying to automate this and create a platform of these, mentors, a large number of mentors with their qualifications, LinkedIn profiles, and some kind of 3-star, 4-star based on what other startups have taken help from are saying, and then allow the startups to pick them and ask the questions. And coming back to this monetary or the compensation part of it, we are beginning to believe that if we put money there, it will become a serious interaction between the startup and the mentors. We are also trying to check if the startups can afford, they would pay 20% and we would subsidize 80%. And these would be, fairly high rates per hour kind of mentoring charges. So we are we are beginning to trial that model. And then the responsibility to add value or add value from the perspective of the startup saying, this mentor really helped me, lies with the mentor as well.
True, absolutely.
Right?
Makes sense. Yes.
These are my views.
Thanks so much. Okay, Vineet, one of the biggest challenges seem to be, or continues to be rather, is the life of the battery when we talk about EV.
Yes, sir.
Of course, there are some experiments, and I am seeing news that some vehicle has touched 500 kilometers, somebody has done more than that, various aspects. But to make it a day-to-day kind of a reality, where do you see the bottleneck? What is happening in this space?
Just to clarify, you're talking about the life of the battery or the range of the battery?
Range of the battery. To be more correct. Range of the battery.
So batteries have different applications. I mean, different applications have different batteries that will be suitable. We have to be we have to understand our specific application and then choose the battery accordingly. So since we are making batteries for different applications, there are B2B clients. So people who are building vehicle for the B2B fleet in a way. An OEM who is making a product, a scooter, purely focusing on the B2B fleet. They will require, and if I talk about a scooter for an example, a two-wheeler, so they ask for the 100 to 120 kilometers range with a single charge, which is what a single day rider's typical profile will be. So they don't really look for very extravagant performance, so 0 to 40 kilometers in 3 seconds and all of that, but they want a stable performance with a high number of cycle times. So they are more concerned about whether it touches 120 kilometers, and then the second point, does it have a 1000 cycle life or a 2000 cycle life? So there comes the different chemistries, NMC, LFP, and then NCA, which is there right now, gradually. Someone who is looking to build for the commercial application as a B2C client, they look for the additional performance measures. They are happy with the 60 kilometer range because as an end user, typically one doesn't ride so much on a regular day-to-day basis. So in that sense, there are different batteries already available for different applications. And there are these battery swapping and public charging stations that are already getting installed in almost all the cities of India now. Battery is going to continuously evolve. So if I draw an analogy with the solar market, earlier we used to have about say 14-15% efficiency of solar panels. This was somewhere about 2010-11, and now we are talking about 22%, which is like almost 50% jump in the efficiency. So it will continuously evolve. The battery industry globally is learning a lot, experimenting with different materials first to lower the cost, and then reach the additional performance benchmarks. So we are already there in terms of competing with the regular ICE vehicles as a standard usage for long range heavy duty vehicles like a truck application or a car with a say 500-kilometer range. We are still not there as of now, but I think it's a matter of time and a bit of say kind of enterprising attitude of the Indian entrepreneurs, because they are experimenting a lot. So larger companies like Tata and Mahindra are fully into this business already, and there are other players who are catching up. Hyundai is doing a lot. I'm talking about the four-wheelers. We have a bunch of two-wheelers who are very active in this space, a bunch of wheelers. So I think the whole ecosystem is developing a lot, and whatever the EV ecosystem has developed in last 7 years, for 8 years, has been predominantly with the new age startups. So this is a real value add if we see the right mentoring and support and whatever we have been discussing now. I think EV industry is a typical example where over the period of 5-7 years, we are seeing a difference and the college students becoming very large startups.
Super. Thank you so much. Yes, coming to Niraj sir. See, you already touched upon a very interesting aspect of startups. That is the timing of entering the market. Very less talked about, but one of the high impact items already identified through various researchers. How do you decide that? Any thoughts on that?
So I'll tell you now, this bit is something that I can say from the other side, in the sense because we dabble into both. I mean, product design is very less. Right. It's more from furniture and a few elements. But we do a lot of interior design and we do a lot of branding and strategy. And that's where we've come across startups a lot. There are two things, even coming from the mentorship, I'll tell you, and which is again something that we are adding to, is that today the idea or belief in a certain product or a service from our end becomes much higher only once we have a little bit skin in the game.
Absolutely.
So in some cases, what we are doing now is that we are actually trading part of our services, which reduces their cash flow and to take an ESOP. Correct?
Perfect.
Now, how does that happen? And that's again, obviously, we are also going to be testing it in terms of whether the timing is right. Now, how do you know and understand whether the timing is right? Yes, of course, I think with what Rajeev was saying and what Wadhwani as a foundation is doing is phenomenal. There aren't too many like this, which has such a structured system in terms of actually helping out. There are family offices, there are angel investors, there are funding companies which come in. The timing today is a difficult question to be answered by both, by the entrant, right, by the startup itself, as well as by the person who's actually funding it. And sometimes the growth is quite lopsided. It may take 5 years by the time it actually matures in terms of the feasibility, within the market. Or believe me, actually, it's the desirability of that fund, which comes in to actually buy a good, decent amount of stake or put in that money. Maybe that is the right time. Because there is somebody bigger and larger who understands the value of this, which you may have understood 5 years back, and then find the right people to understand it at that point. The other is in India, which I mentioned earlier as herd mentality, which is not so wrong also, is that the fear in India for first mover advantages of something completely innovative is the fear is high. So one may want to still go in for tested markets. So, where something has already been done and you think it's, you can better it because it's already a market which is kind of created. That is in that sense the safest. Now, timing is to do with whether you want to make it safe or whether you want to, create a big bang.
Big bang. Okay, got it.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to take because I got this opportunity, I would love to ask Vineet which company he's driving. And because he's in the car. I would love to know whether it is, the purpose driven. Also, not to put him in a thing, but I think your question earlier in terms of life of battery is more relevant than range of battery. Because the biggest question that even I today have is that what is going to happen to these batteries once they die?
Absolutely.
How green is that, really?
Absolutely. How green is that?
Just answer that will be great.
Yes, Vineet, which car do you drive?
So this is going to be a big concern in terms of sustainability. What is the end use of the EV vehicle batteries? Practically every technology has some form of answer to this. So the limited response to this is that the whole EV battery, after their useful life, will get converted into a stationary storage device of some form. So either it is a renewable storage application or the home inverter application. We are also developing such inverters which will utilize only the two-wheeler batteries or three-wheeler batteries and then repurposing them for another 5-7 years. So it is not in a way 100% recycling, but we call it repurposing and then enhancing the same product's life for another 5-7 years. So that is definitely happening.
Super. Okay, I would like to bring one last question to Gaurav. The question is, one of the biggest challenges for a founder is to find suitable co-founders or build that first team. And here you need a heterogeneous team to bring in the necessary components into the mix. But at the same time, you also should be able to trust them. How do you balance this?
Thank you. I guess this is a very interesting question. If I have to, if I close my eyes and if I have to pick one, I would say I will pick anyone who has shared values like me. Because usually people go with skill set when it comes to co-founders. Okay, let's say if I am good in terms of sales, I would want someone who can take care of operations.
Correct.
It's a good idea to have, but a lot of times what happens is that the skill set could be built over a period of time. But what is important is that if I'm going to have some level of empathy towards my customers or employees, is the other person also able to somehow relate to it? Because otherwise what happens is that one person is kind of pulling the company on one side, another one is pulling on the another side, and that doesn't help. So I think for me, I would always say that you need someone who has shared values and almost very similar vision in terms of what exactly you are up to. Rest, everything could be figured out, could be built upon. You can actually hire people, you can have expanded team accordingly and all of that. If the values are not shared and if the purpose is somehow a little different for individuals, then I think it's not going to help. So I would go with someone who has very similar value system like me.
Okay, I think we have just come to our conclusion. So thank you very much for great insights, sharing your experiences and answering some tricky questions also. Thank you so much for that. And yes, over to you, Dr. Praveen and Kavita.
श्रीधर जी, मुझे ये लग रहा है कि ये एक सेशन में जो इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ें डिस्कस हुई है, सो मतलब अगर आप 4 बुक रीड करो एंड एट द एंड जो कंक्लूजन और जो समरी मिले विच यू कैन लर्न और यू कैन टेक समथिंग एट होम, है ना, तो इतना सारा डिस्कशन हुआ है. थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन फॉर शेयरिंग योर एक्सपीरियंस, योर इनसाइट एंड लॉट ऑफ नॉलेज आई थिंक डिस्कस. Thank you so much, Rajeev ji. So we are virtually connecting very first time, and thank you so much for joining, Gaurav, Niraj bhai, and Vineet ji, and Sridhar sir. You are great moderator, sir. Thank you so much for participation. Thank you so much.